Good morning. Thank you for visiting my Norma Cowie channel, YouTube channel, at that, I should say. Today, I'm going to be talking about words. I'm going to be talking about affirmations. I'm going to be talking about how to get what you want. Now, why am I talking on that topic today? I have talked about it, probably a year and a half ago, but this time, it was because of several things that happened in the last few days. I had a client, a longtime client, phone me up really upset, can't seem to get a job, doesn't have enough money, used up her resources. And this is not uncommon anymore because of the time period. Wanting to know if she had a curse. And of course, she didn't have a curse. Of all the work we've done, if there was any, it was long taken care of. But when I asked her how she was stating things, in other words, what do you really want? She made a mistake, and I don't mean that nastily. I mean, this is something I found a lot of people will do. She told me a story. And when you are wanting to set out what specifically you are wanting, you don't make it a story. Another example of the story element was I was visiting a church that needed a minister. I was speaking at the church. It's not in this province, it's somewhere else. And I sat down and I watched as they went through, I don't know, it was 2 or even 3 sort of pages up on the board as they were declaring what they wanted for a minister. This was, yes, that's what they wanted for a minister. But if you're going to put a thought out there of finding a minister, you wouldn't do it that way, according to me. Now, I realize this is all according to me, and what I have found works for me and people who have studied with me, etc. Now, very often what will happen is that we will get a situation in our lives, whether it is correct or not, doesn't matter, but in our minds, what we do is we create a story. And that story becomes a story we will tell ourselves and others over and over and over again. I often say, if I repeat a story 3 times, I know I'm addicted to the story. And that means I'm locked in that space of time. And the importance of not being locked in that space and time is that it leaves very little room for new things to come in because of the story. Now, we all have stories, and I use stories a lot in my talks. When I'm teaching people, when I have clients, I will often use stories from my life, but I'm not addicted to that story. And I may say that story today, and I may not use it for 3 years because it's not like something that repeats in my mind over and over and over again because this thing happened. We all have history. We all have the good, the bad, and the ugly, you might say. We have things that we're proud of, where things we're not proud of. That's where self-forgiveness comes in. When we're not proud of something, we need to really work on forgiving ourselves, knowing that we are forgiven. So therefore, why would we not forgive ourselves? So how do affirmations actually work? Or declaring, you could also say an affirmation is like a declaration. The first thing I always notice is whether it's short and concise. Now, I one time said to someone, I said, write out an affirmation. And I'm sitting there, and this is a truism. I went, if I was God, I'd be totally bored right now. You lost me words ago. And the person looked at me. I said, this is a big planet of a lot of people all putting in their order. I would have been bored within very quickly. I would have started, because I've got all these other orders that I have to organize. Now, yeah, I know I've personalized it, but the thing is, the energy of how you say something really is important. First, the wording is important. What are you stating? Are you stating your end result? I find very often when I'm teaching how to speak affirmations or how to create affirmations, that people will call what I call a step towards the end result they want as an affirmation. They'll begin affirming that. But that's just the step. That's not the end result. The best thing is to go for the end result. What is it you are really wanting? Maybe it's clarity. Maybe it's direction. Maybe it's a financial reward or an influx. Maybe it's just the feeling of being secure. Whatever it is that you want, really want, that is what you work on. That is what you keep in your mind all the time. This is what I'm wanting. And that's the question I say to people. What is it you want? Not need, not hope. What do you want? What are you really, really wanting? And sometimes it takes a little bit of work to work that out, what it is that you really are wanting. So the wording is really important. Now, years ago, when I was working on loving myself, I created a series of affirmations, and they go something, this is what they go. I love me, I trust me, I am loved, and I'm lovable. Those were the four major ones. But then as the time went on, it expanded. I'm beautiful, I'm worthy, I deserve, and I like myself. I found I loved myself at one point, but I realized I didn't quite like myself. So I put in there, I like myself. And there's several others that I have that added, which I ended up putting on first into a cassette tape and then onto a CD. And now on a sheet of paper with writing of how to do that and work with different parts of your body, etc., that I email out to people who want to hear how that can work to really increase that the loving of yourself. And also I have some other ones. One I got from a series of meditations I was working with a group called the Nishaya monks that I learned a lot, and it's their meditation that I use mostly for myself. And one of their elements right off in the first level was God loves, well, you can use any word, God or whatever, but God loves me. I have no problem with the word God. So again, you want to make sure that the words are clear, that is not upsetting you in any way, shape, or form. That just usually means that some way you just need to clear that. But God loves me, but letting it drop into the center of me. And that made another sort of significant step difference in the recognition of the universal love energy actually responding with my personality at this moment. The soul, the essence of me, yes, as well. But we're people, we're humans. And I heard yesterday I was working with a client, and one of the things they said, well, I asked them what they were here for, and they said, I'm here to learn. And I just going to check, make sure I got the right wording on this. I think I still have that sheet with me here. I just want to make sure I'm saying this correctly because I wrote it down. Oh, I said, I'm here to learn things. And I said, and how do you learn things? And they said, from my mistakes. And what I explained to that person, just by thinking that around them, I learned by my mistakes. They had to make mistakes in order to learn. And so it was like a revolving door. There was no end, actually, because we had to make a mistake in order to learn. And then I explained to them that years ago, I realized I was raised in that time era where everything was about learning. You're here to learn, learn this, learn that, learn the other. It was all learning. And one day it was like I came to a full stop. And I went, hold on. If I have this belief I have to learn, there's always something more to learn. When does that end? When does that come to that point where there is nothing more to learn? And that feeling like there's, what else have I haven't learned? So I did a lot of contemplating on that. And what I came up with was this, that really I was here to understand. Because when I understood something, I stood on that. And yes, I might learn something new or learn something else, but what I have already learned was my base. I understood it. I stood on that. And that changed a whole lot of perception about the whole learning thing. Because when you are in a spiritual, philosophical way of wanting to really understand how everything is, you working to learn, and actually the mistake, where am I wrong? And so you're thinking all the time where you're wrong, rather than accepting hey, okay, there's something else I haven't quite understood about that. And anyway, for me, what I found just by looking at the world of what do I understand? What have I come to? It took away a lot of pressure. And that left it open for me recognizing that the loving of the universe was there for me. If the loving of the universe is there for me, and sometimes I describe it like a big computer in the sky listening to your orders and giving them back. Maybe it's a little like Amazon, right? You write out what you want, Amazon sends it to you. Unfortunately, when it comes to the universal love energy, it's a little bit different because we've got to put energy behind the words that we state, whether you look at it as a declaration or an affirmation or just placing your order. So it's got to be short. Let's go over this. Short and sweet. I love me. Now, that is me telling and working with myself, because the way I teach affirmations is, it's not the affirmation that's important, it's what does not believe it. So when I say I love me, when I first started, I always had a little voice up here that said, oh yeah, right, you know, and it would be like, I was like, whoa. And then I realized that my job was to pull that disbelief out and release that, clear that. So until I could say, I love me, and there was no response. Now then I learned a very interesting thing, because one day I was touching my knees and I said the affirmations while I touched my knees. And all of a sudden I had a whole different response. And that's when I realized that things are held in different parts of our bodies. And so it's really important to place your hands like on your head, on your chest, on your stomach, on your hips, on your knees, on your ankles, on your bottoms of your feet, to find out where else. And when I look back, this was a lot of years ago. And that was probably the beginning of a lot of the clearing transformation work I do today, because we look at all sorts of different things to clear out. Like I was clearing out anger for a person yesterday, and all sorts of different places, chakras, levels, systems, many, many different things. And then, of course, contracts we make with ourselves, and oaths and vows, and all sorts of crazy things we can do over our centuries of existence in this planet. So it is really important how you put out what you want. For my client yesterday, what I did was give her a very simple, about 5 words. I said, we want this down to 5 words that you can say for 5 days. Do not say anything, like don't, when you're affirming or thinking, do not get caught up in anything else. Just bring yourself back. And I always make sure that we release when you know how your mind goes off on a different time. I'm a mental person, so my mind can go anywhere. Is to be able to bring that back into focus, so that you're stating what you want and it has energy with it, because this is what you want. So it's like when I go back to the story when I said, oh, if I'm God, I'm bored. Not only because of all the words, but because there's no energy. There's nothing to excite me. Well, what's getting my interest? What is wanting to make this happen? Now I'm personalizing that because that's not really how it works, but it's a way of explaining it. You need to be aware of what your end result is that you want. What do you really want? You know, I'm at a different stage of my life where I was in my 40s. I was very, very busy running a business, having my kids getting older, having relationship issues, all that, very, very busy. So my awareness of my end results were different than they are today as an older person who's had a lot of experience and yet wants to be part of the world still, this crazy world that we're living in right now, that personally I may not always totally approve of everything that's going on, but that's my story. And so it's really about thinking about what you're wanting at this time in relation to your life. I have said this before and I'll say it again. For many, many years, I lived in a state of peaceful contentment most of the time. But what I discovered was, even though I was peacefully contented, if I did not create goals for myself, if I did not create new things to explore or do or go and be in some respect of whatever, eventually life would come crashing in my door and I would have to look at that. So life here is not about sitting stationary and still. It is about exploration, whether it's inside personally or outside in the world. Many of you know I took a 10-day car trip across part of Canada recently. I plan on still, because I like driving, but I have to drive shorter distances. It's part of the fact of my life. I can't just go and sit down and drive 12 hours anymore, all those kind of things. So we have to accommodate where we are in relation to life. Plus, when we're getting to my age, what happens is we know how much longer do we have. So we're contemplating and looking, are we ready for that end? We do not know when that really is going to happen. Oh, we promise can say, you know, you've got this, that, and the other, but I know that has been proven incorrect on several of my friends' hands. So consequently, it's like being ready and knowing and being clear and affirming that all things that occur to you support you through with love. It's about knowing that you are where you need to be, that you've got to, I don't like saying got to, pardon me for that. That's what happens when you're just talking up straight from where you are. You sometimes say inappropriate things. You don't got to do anything. It's what you want. What do you want to do? What do you want to be? Where do you want to go? And sometimes things look impossible. I know that. And in fact, I had a gal phone me, it was actually through some Facebook thing, not phone me, she didn't talk direct, but she's asked a question, if I'd be willing to lead a group. She didn't actually say lead, but be part of it, set up a group. That's how I interpreted it anyway, where we can work on how to keep the ideology, the idea, and to me, that would be the thought form, larger of peace and goodwill for everyone. I'm still contemplating on that. And so let's go back over this as we wrap up. Words are important. How you say them. Are you saying them with conviction? Are you saying them with energy behind them, knowing that this can be and will be done? And to make sure that you are aware of your end result, not the step on the way to that end result. Remember, most people want some form of clarity and forget to ask for that. They need direction. You forget to ask for that. Financial reward. We all want that. I don't know who doesn't want that. I came this morning when I awoke, I did not know what I was going to speak about today. In fact, I kind of sat there and thought, what am I going to talk about? Well, it'll come, because always it does. There's been a few things brewing, but I wasn't very clear. So the one thing I know is that I will always be given the answer that I want to have. So I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for your likes. I want to thank you for your comments. I want to thank you for those that have subscribed and will subscribe. I also let you know that through my website, you can sign up for my newsletter that comes out once a month, talks about what I'm planning or doing, and also I give little specials occasionally here and there. They're always kind of nice to keep track of. So in the meantime, I just want to thank you for watching Norma Cowie's YouTube channel, and especially every Wednesday, Norma Talks. And then on Sunday, we have a Sunday thought. Blessings.